I'm Anthony Leckis from the Bi Plus Collective Australia, a group of Bi Plus leaders and advocates from around the country who come together once a year to bring to you the Stand By Us conference.
I'm Sally Goldner. I use the pronoun she, her. I'm on Kulin Bollen land, and I'm a trans and bipan and neurodivergent woman. It's really exciting to me to be a part of the conference and to be a part of all the intersectionality therein.
Hello, my name's Misty Farquhar. I use they, them pronouns. I am on Whadjuk Noongar land, and I am one of the organisers of Bi Plus Community Perth, who are very excited to be involved in the conference.
Hi, I'm Neen Chapman. I am a non-binary, MGA, multigender attracted, bi plus pan human. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm really, really excited to be a part of Bi Plus Collective Australia and bring a second year of an amazing conference forum for our Bi Plus communities across the continent.
So welcome everyone. It's so great to be here with you to talk about Stand By Us 2021. It's a forum that is mostly online, and it's the second year running, and we've been developing that together with our colleagues. So can I firstly ask, why should there be a forum specifically about bisexuality, pansexuality and multigender attraction? I wonder if, Sally, you could go first.
Thanks, Anthony. I think we need a forum about Bi Plus because for a long time, Bi Plus people have felt and have been erased from conversations in the rainbow or included tokenistically and not accurately. For example, on a discussion I was on the other day, someone said, Organisation X has done really well on LGB but not T. And that wasn't quite true. They've done well on L and G but not B and T. So sometimes we get lumped in with the sexuality type of stuff when that's not accurate. Our issues can be different. We can face a whole heap of things that lesbian and gay people don't face. Hard, cold realities sometimes we're the filling in the sandwich where we get negativity from both the broader community and elements of gay and lesbian. And of course, none of that is valid. We're humans, as Neen introduced themselves, and we've got lots of potential like gay, lesbian and heterosexual people, if we're just talking about sexual/romantic orientation. And we might be biased, but we've also got lots of brilliance as well. And this is a chance to come together to strengthen each other, which I felt hugely, as did many other people last year. It was by far the most solid I'd felt in my sexual and romantic orientation in my life, and gave a huge sense of connection. So there's lots of positives, and it's a chance to perhaps overcome some of the negatives.
So really centering the experiences of bisexuality, pansexuality, multigender attraction at every aspect of this forum. And I'm just wondering, Misty, is that a new thing to bring to queer communities?
Yeah, I probably echo a lot of what Sally said, that in LGBTIQA plus spaces, we're kind of lumped in with gay and lesbian, even though our experiences are quite uniquely different. In mainstream community, we're invisible as well. So I think it's really nice to just have a space for the in-between that we are, and that includes the in-between in terms of gender, in terms of relationships, ethnicity. So this really for me is a space for all of the in-between, not necessarily just sexuality. And the feedback we're getting from members of our group is incredible. People didn't realise there was a community for them. So it's incredibly important.
And Neen, so what can people expect with Stand By Us, with bringing together the in-between, as Misty says, and all the many ways that people are multigender attracted and located in all sorts of intersections in terms of where they're located in their worlds?
I think the deepest thing that comes out of running this type of forum, these type of events, is affirmation for individuals and affirmation for humans to know that they're not on their own, that there are a lot of people working to support them, that there are wonderful events and stuff that is sessions that are important and serious and address serious issues, but also a consideration of the spectrum of wellness and fun, really good conversation, deep questioning of ourselves and of society, but also the thing that I think is one of the most important things out of Stand By Us is that if we help affect one person out there who didn't know that there was a community, that's the most beautiful thing, and it might save a life.
So the health outcomes for bisexual people are obvious, right? We know from Julia Taylor's research that the health outcomes in all sorts of facets of life, that bisexual people struggle for particular reasons in terms of anxiety, depression, and suicidality, among others. Neen, when you talk about affirmation and wellness and then community, I wonder about what that means to bisexual people to find community, to find representation, and what that does to their sense of well-being.
It's a really good question, and I think it's probably a little bit different for every individual because we're all different. We all have different experiences and life experiences. Just briefly, I had a significant other who made my queerness and bisexuality, pansexuality, multigender attracted very normal. And I lost him a few years ago. And I wandered around very, very, very lost as a 48-year-old non-binary person, having no idea what the real words and language were for myself, and also needing connection and support with peers where I just felt so comfortable just to be myself and not feel like I was on the outside, like I have done in many other queer spaces. So that's my reference to it. But I think for our entire communities, knowing that they're not on their own, that they can see mirroring of their life stories and their experiences, they won't be exactly the same, but they're very similar. And I think that type of affirmation, that confirmation that they're valid is really, really important.
Yeah. So finding some similar stories and experiences, these sort of Stand By Us brings together some collective voices, Neen, it sounds like. Can I throw it out to Sally and Misty? Like, what else can you tell us about the importance of these collective voices at the Stand By Us event?
I think that it is that sense of connection. We all know that connection is vital for people. And of course, in the last year and a half or so, we've needed it more than ever, where we need to connect to our proverbial tribes. And yes, it would be wonderful if we had more choice to do things in person, but particularly last year when parts of Australia had been in severe lockdown, and whilst we have to face that reality, sadly we are again in the same position, that this will be a huge chance to connect both generally and specifically for bi plus people and find common interests. Many people, as has been said, like Neen said, found that sense of community and strength. And to get that boost is important, and it can be in lots of ways. It could be to throw a random, it could be the fun conversation about we're going to have a meeting for bi people to discuss pets, and then there'll be other issues such as binary busting and bi and poly, which is more focused on communities and perhaps discussive or educative in its way. So there's just a whole range of stuff, and it can only get more and more effective the more people who are involved. If someone else comes along and says, "Oh well, why don't we next year have a panel on bi and da 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 da?" I'm sure we can squeak it in. So I think there's just that sense of people feeling connected, perhaps even not just on their bi plus part, but feeling connected holistically as a whole person, which is always a really good booster.
Yeah, I guess for me, about 5 or 6 years ago, I was looking for community because I didn't think that I knew anyone who was bi plus, and I couldn't find community. And so I created community, and that's where Bi Plus Community Perth has come out of. I think what I've found, and a lot of our members reflect, is that it's a space where we feel like we're genuinely able to breathe. We don't have to pretend anymore. We don't have to explain ourselves. Everybody in that space understands who we are and how we function, which is something that everybody looks for, like a sense of belonging. I think also this particular forum, Stand By Us, is really valuable from the perspective of Western Australians who often, for better or for worse, are quite disconnected from the rest of the country. This, COVID has created an opportunity for Western Australians to connect in with bi+ people across the country and feel like we have a national community. It's not just, Daddy Mark's space and the rest of the country.
It's such a good point, Misty, because when we all got together to develop the first Stand By Us forum last year in 2020, we were all experiencing hard lockdown for the first time in our lives. And so there was a risk of us feeling very disconnected from communities and groups and people we care about. And so, but what ended up happening was the opposite, right? By advocates and leaders from around the country, and we have colleagues in the Northern Territory, we have colleagues in Queensland and Tasmania, and we have colleagues here from New South Wales, Melbourne, and Victoria and Western Australia. And so it gave us an opportunity to come together to put on something pretty remarkable for everyone to access, whether they're living in rural, regional areas or in big cities and towns. But also, we found last year, maybe one of you can talk to this a little bit more about, it became almost an unintended international gathering of bi+ folk.
I'd just like to point out that you missed South Australia, Anthony, and we do have colleagues from South Australia who are part of this as well. Internationally, COVID has impacted everywhere. It's impacted everywhere, and I think people, particularly last year, were really craving these online spaces where they could connect, and I guess we were, as a disorganised organisation, able to move really quickly and make that happen, whereas perhaps in other places where they had maybe some clunky processes or, they're used to delivering forums in person, it was difficult for them to then translate that online. So I think we really filled a gap last year in terms of what was happening around the world.
Yeah, I'll just add to that, we had beyond the country now called Australia, we had guests, I think it was New Zealand, Singapore, UK, USA and Canada, and maybe one other. And I mean, that's even a greater sense of connection. And I think that sometimes, we can be a bit bubbleized, if I can vandalise the English language. And I think that when we start communicating with our bi+ siblings all around the world, we then get an idea, well, there's a lot of parallels in the issues. What's worked for you? We can take that wheel and rather than reinvent a wheel, we make a better wheel. There's all of those sorts of aspects as well, which is really exciting and just gives that sense of connection as well. And so we will be definitely promoting this on, sort of on world platforms as well as just within the places on this continent, for sure.
Now, the forum kicks off on the 23rd of September. It's a fairly significant day on the queer calendar. Neen, what do you want to tell us why it lands on that day?
23rd of September is Bi Visibility Day. And Misty and Sally, please correct me if I'm wrong. Is it the 20th or 21st anniversary? I'm sorry, last year and this year I've run into each other, I feel. It's such a significant occasion. It's a significant day, and I do have to say that I've enjoyed seeing it morph into Bisexuality Pride Month. So we're taking over the world by taking over the month of September. But if I just talk about 23rd of September, visibility for bisexual plus people is incredibly, incredibly important. And we talked a little bit earlier as we were discussing with Sally and Misty the reasons why visibility is important. Erasure and prejudice, bi prejudice and biphobia happen every day. And for single people out there, or people, I don't mean single as in a relationship or not, but individual people out there who identify as bisexual, pansexual, MGA attracted, humans, they struggle with being sort of told they're not valid. They struggle with being made invisible by so many organisations. And sometimes it's just wrong language being used. It might be a lovely intent of a lovely message, as I experienced in Wear It Purple Day a couple of weeks ago. Someone had a really lovely intent and a lovely story, but it completely erased by bisexual people. So to bring it to the fore, to have it as an international day that's celebrated all around the world, bisexuals are put up on a stand. We're put up into the light, just like we should be, because we shine very, very brightly and we do have wonderful lives, but sometimes they're just made difficult when people sort of push us aside or include us in mass groups and etc. when that doesn't serve our sexuality and our persons well.
So to kick off on Bi Vis Day, it'll run for 4 days over that weekend, and it kicks off with the very first event being the First Nations keynote. Mandy Henningham and Todd Fernando are going to be leading that discussion. And do one of you want to talk about the importance of having sort of First Nation speakers opening up the forum, and also perhaps what are some of the other events that people can expect at Stand By Us?
Last year as well, for us, it was really important to centre First Nations people in our conference. And I think this year I'm really excited. I'm really excited for this panel, actually, or the plenary event, because the two people who are speaking are very well-respected academics and Indigenous people themselves. Recently in Western Australia, there was some research done around Aboriginal people in WA, called Breaking the Silence by Professor Braden Hill and his colleagues. And there was a real prominent number of folks who did not feel like they were part of the LGBTIQA plus community, let alone, just looking at our little subsection. So I think it's really important that we're constantly trying to do better in that space. And, as we spoke about before, bisexuality is almost like this collective in-between space, people who are kind of falling outside of, all of the rigid structures. So I think it's a nice welcoming place for that to happen.
It is, to quote two British comedians of the 1970s, not saying anything about their sexuality, though. It's a packed program over 4 days, which is the main concentrated part from the 23rd. And it is the 21st anniversary, confirming that. So definitely we're big bi adults now, although we'll be in touch with our inner child, because there'll be discussions, fun topics like discussing things about pets would be one example. And then there's sort of, as we said, there's important topics that perhaps are a little needing more thought, like the First Nations plenary. We could do lots at random. There's binaries. There's a writers panel, so we're talking artsy bis. There's morning yoga to stretch our way into the day. A very important one that often gets erased by experiences of HIV prevention and healthcare, and there's been some great work done recently on that. Queering relationships, bi plus and polyamory intersection. We've got games. We've got a meeting of Boulder, which is the ongoing 40 plus bi plus pan omni MGA humans. And there's also arts events like Biconic as well. So we've got a pretty broad cross-section of bi plus life to celebrate that 21st anniversary. And, of course, who knows in the arts events, given that one of the reasons Celebrate Bi Day was chosen to be September is because it's Freddie Mercury's birthday this month. So who knows, there could be Queen impersonators. I don't know. Just saying there might be. And we can all go along singing bisexual, or something like that. But there will also be fun. That's the thing. We want it to be fun, like the proverbial light shade and all non-binary forms in between.
I think that's a really important point, Sally. There's a lot of serious stuff and a lot of really nasty stuff that our communities experience. But one of the things that comes out in a lot of the research is this feeling of freedom and authenticity around, centering around our sexuality. And this forum definitely represents all of that. So there's hard stuff in there. And I think the hard stuff is particularly pertinent to allies. So we do highly recommend allies get along. But also there's some really fun spaces for people to just connect with other cool people.
Well, there are 24 events in the calendar, plus an extra event on the Tuesday after. And I actually just want to call out the fabulousness of Perth BiPlus community being able to have an in-person event. We will live vicariously through them, being able to get together and have a great time in person. We have a dinner on the 23rd to celebrate Bi Visibility Day, and we also have just some beautiful wholesome events. There's on the Sunday we have a poetry. It's a bit of an open mic. It's an hour and a half or so, a couple of hours of poetry. So Bi plus Pan poetry called, now I may get this pronunciation wrong, biamic pentameter, so which I love. And bisexuals are very famous for our puns. So we will also have a pun competition returning this year. So that is adjudicated by BCA organisers for Stand By Us. And it's the best pun through any session. We do record them and we make an adjudication on the last day.
That sounds awesome. So, and I love that it starts off with bi yoga every morning and all the important themes and topics on bi plus people's experiences throughout the day. And and the pun competition sounds amazing, and it was a real feature of last year's event. So looking forward to that again this year. I'm particularly looking forward to the cocktail event on the Friday night. So happy to be having some cocktails with some other attendees. Is there a particular event you're looking forward to in particular?
I'm really looking forward to Biconic. The lineup looks amazing. It's an incredible run sheet of interviews, significant reviews and forward looks about bisexuality and our nightlife and history. It's also fabulous performers, great comedy, and I think that it'll be a fabulous night for everybody, just to have a bit of fun being bisexual.
I'm really looking forward to the panel that's being developed by LGBTIQ plus Health Australia, which is about the intersections of non-binary sexuality and gender. Just a heads up, you heard it here first. We've got some pretty famous Aussie folk who are going to be on that panel. So watch this space.
You're asking a bisexual to have to choose? That's just not allowable. So look, there are a few things subjectively. I mean, I'm really keen to hear about the First Nations plenary, because we all don't know what we don't know, and whilst there is similarity across the bi kaleidoscope, there obviously could be different issues that we all a non-Aboriginal person is not aware of for bi plus community. So we can all sort of learn from that. But there are other fun events, the bi dinner, a cocktail party, which I don't care whether we're on Zoom. I'm going to take the excuse to glam up a bit because I haven't for ages. So we'll do that. And, just relaxing events like the yoga or the pets or other thing, the game, for those who are into it. My hand-to-eye coordination isn't up to a bi gaming night, but I just think it's just that range of everything. So I think that's what I'm looking forward to, is that whole chance where we have a smorgasbord on board anyway, and then we'll get the puns better by the time the conference starts.
That sounds amazing. So there's lots of events for people to choose from, lots of varieties, so there's no excuses for not attending something over the 4 days. It's 4 days of jam-packed events for bi plus people and their allies and the people in their lives. And so get along to the forum, the Stand By Us forum. The information will be appearing on your screen, the link to access the program. And please sign up and get in quickly, because these events do fill up really quickly. We had almost every event full last year. So I look forward to seeing you at the conference. I want to thank Misty, Sally and Neen for coming along, my colleagues from the Bi Plus Collective Australia, the organising committee for the Stand By Us conference. Thank you so much for chatting today about Stand By Us, and I'll see you all at the forum.
Bye.